Okay, this is day 79 of making videos of day in the life of Schizophrenic Dominic. I make these little videos to describe some sane thoughts in the midst of the world going crazy and saying I was crazy. And I believe that I have experienced schizophrenia, but I don't believe that I am crazy or diseased. And I express in day 17 and day 45 of these videos why I make these videos and why I call myself a schizophrenic over targeted individual. On my on the topic section of these little posts here, I will place a link to my book, which is called Unveiling the Schizophrenic Tradition. So if you like what I have to say, you can check out that book. It's just more of my thought processes that could have got me targeted and my knowledge about technology and surveillance that could cause schizophrenia. Uh, yeah. Okay. So, or the targeted individual phenomena, whichever one you want to use. Okay. So, I that's my intro, and I'm going to go into a topic here today about the El Salvador prisoners. And it is crazy what's going on with those El Salvador prisoners. And you have a situation where they wage psychological war on those prisoners in that prison, and you think like, how could this be going on today in modern times, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, where America, supposedly a beacon of human rights or whatever, has I'm getting a call, has a foothold. But so it's very disheartening when you see the pictures of people and the way they treat them. But then you think to yourself, like, you're like aghast, like, oh my God. But like, if you think about it, this prison is indicative, or it is almost like a symbol for the overall program to treat immigrants in America, to embarrass them or to wage a psychological war on them the entire time they're here. From the moment they get here, they have to hear right wing Republicans say things like immigrants are causing all the problems in the country. The president of the United States started his campaign talking about immigrants as rapists and murderers and everything, and they're sending the worst and everything. And so it's like, uh, the vitriol and whipping up anger. Like the trickle down didn't work, so they blamed the immigrants, and so they're whipping up anger at the immigrants. They blame the immigrants, blame the immigrants. And it's very embarrassing, and it's like that prison is just indicative of the overall psychological warfare put on immigrants in America so that they don't demand rights. The immigrants don't demand workers' rights, they don't demand higher wages, they don't demand voting rights. Since they're living in this country, they should be voting because it's a democracy and everyone's all against. If you're arguing that immigrants shouldn't vote, then you're arguing against democracy. But we now all seeing that's really what you're all about, and you're all about this technocracy and technocratic fascism and the little fiefdoms of corporate lords over the country, and that's why you're dissolving the government and government workers. Anyways, so to get back into the immigration thing, the prison in El Salvador is a symbol of the psychological war with which immigrants are subject to in America, and it is done to keep them in their place. And and the reality is that America is going to probably, after Trump is gone, probably going to have immigrants again, but the immigrants will be living in fear because there'll always be the threat of bringing back the bad cop, and they won't ask for their demand the rights that they deserve, which is voting rights, which is citizenship, which is equal standing in the society with which they live, and even housing or healthcare, education. you know uh those things are all rights that with which we should be thinking about, because we're not a country club. We're a country. We're a democracy, and we're supposed to be a democracy, and we're not supposed to be country club where you have your little fiefdom slave coming in to help you or something. So anyway, so that's why they do that prison. And if you learning about this, what's going on with this prison, like the Venezuelan immigrants are sent to this El Salvadoran prison, just like, oh, send them to that El Salvadoran prison. It's totally insane that the presidency of the United States is engaging in this type of behavior, and it's really disgusting. And so, yeah, just one more reason why, frankly, this Donald Trump guy is really a disgusting character. Okay, so I'm gonna segue here. March 17th was my. This is a bad segue, but well, if immigrant, my grandma was an immigrant. My grandma came from an immigrant family and of Italians, and she was born on March 17th. And I learned that that is the Italian Unification Day. I think I knew that, but I just was reminded of that from my sister. And it's also Katie Ledecky's birthday, which is kind of interesting. And it's also St. Patrick's Day, so my grandma was born St. Patrick's Day, Italian Unification, and Katie Ledecky's birthday. So March 17th is quite a day. 17 is the number of people in the lawsuit against the United States government for the targeted individual program, and that's a big deal. Yeah, they're probably not going to win the lawsuit. I don't think they did. So, but the fact that people brought the suit and pursued it, that's a big deal. All right, yesterday, me, my mom, and my dad were training for the Camino, and we made it 4.15 miles so far. So we're up to 4.15 miles, and we're trying to get to 5 by this next month or so. Maybe in a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we'll move up to 5. And I think once we hit 5, we're pretty smooth sailing as far as being able to conduct the hike that we'll need to conduct on the Camino with my mom and my dad. As my dad is 70 and my mom is 66. And but I think we're looking pretty good. We did pretty good yesterday, and our hikes have been kind of hill heavy. So we're going up and over a giant hill here in the middle of our 4 mile hike, and we're gonna try to find like some more flat ground because we don't think there's gonna be extensive hills on our hike on the Camino, but we're not exactly sure. We look at the maps and we can see the terrain, and it's like an 800-foot climb over 4 miles or something, and so doesn't seem very extensive climbing, or that I think that's like the highest or whatever. And so it doesn't seem a very extensive climbing, and so we're gonna try to find some more flat ground to see how that is. But at least over the hill that we do now, it's kind of shady. So yeah, so it's a matter of how will we do in the sun. And then once we hit 5 miles, we're gonna try to get the 6 and 7. It doesn't appear we're gonna do an 8 miler. It appears it's gonna keep it. We're keeping it at about 7. We're working with a guided uh, a company that's trying to set us up. Originally, we were going to go 2 days on, 1 day off, but with all the days off, we were doing longer hikes. So we're now going to kind of hike every day in there. So it'll be shorter hikes, but an everyday hike for 2 weeks and stuff. So that's kind of what we're at, but we're up to 4.15 miles, and we're doing really good. And it's fun to train, and I'm getting excited. I'm actually myself, I'm 7 pounds. I'm 7.4 pounds down on the scale, and trying to get to 7.6 today. And so yeah, I'll let you know when I get to 8 pounds down. And so the goal is to get to 165, and I think I'm at 198. So I got like 33 pounds to go. Yeah, I think I can do it. I'm eating a lot of almonds. All right, no, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. in Never Enough, the book about toxic achievement culture in our society, the author was discussing a girl by the name of Maggie who was feeling really pressured at this wealthy, affluent neighborhood in Connecticut, and she had to get the good grades and get into the great college and all this, and she was feeling really pressured, and it was driving her nuts. And as it turns out, she took a break and went into like a nature camp, went out into the forest or whatever, and they said, the forest was great, and the author was saying, or the book was saying, trees have your back, have trees hug you back. They talk about being a tree hugger and stuff, and they say trees hug back, and there's no judgment in a forest. There's no judgment in a forest, and the forest welcomes you, and they're not judging you. They're not saying you're too fat or judging the way your hair looks or what clothes you're wearing or what your grade are or how athletic you are or anything like that. And the forest is welcoming you into the forest. Just going in there, you get the shade, you get the energy from the forest and everything like that. And so it's total opposite of our achievement culture. And that tells you something a little bit. Uh, I now I start to think, like, when you think about our like the Gnostic idea, because I kind of have the Gnostic idea, but then you see something so grand as a forest and how it welcomes you, and it's like that's something interesting. Like, well, nature welcomes you, but then you think, like, the bear will eat you or the wolf will eat you. That's how my mind goes. And so it's like it welcomes you, but there's a little thing lurking in that welcoming forest. So you have to be careful. It's a little bit treacherous. Okay, but maybe that's to teach you about treachery. You're a different kind of being. You don't need to be treacherous. Like the animals may eat you, but you have to think consciously about your life, and you can think, I don't have to eat the animal, or I don't have to kill the animal just because it wants to kill me or something. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you do. Okay. So in my other book called Clanlands, they're in New Zealand, and Graham and Sam are swimming with sharks. And I don't know if you saw the capsule yesterday. I talked about the capsule coming back, the Dragon capsule coming back from space yesterday on the SpaceX thing, and it was in the water, and there was dolphins swimming. And I always think that when I see those dolphins, I'm like, oh my god, they're sharks, but they're actually dolphins. And Graham and Sam were swimming with the sharks because they're doing like all these adrenaline junkie things, and that's something I would never do. I'm actually afraid to snorkel in like those shallow waters, like in Hawaii, like if people go to Hawaii and stuff. And it's like I don't even want to do that. I know that's kind of scary, stupid, but I just remembered that uh, Steve Irwin, the nature guy, he died from stingray attack, and I don't want that to happen to me. And so I say the fish are over there. I trust you can go down with a camera. National Geographic does all kinds of cool things with cameras. I can go to what are those aquariums and see all kinds of cool stuff. That's what aquariums are cool. I love aquariums, and I love cameras and National Geographic and all those nature shows and stuff like that. Those are really cool. But I don't necessarily need to be in the water with the fish and the stingrays and all that. Okay, so that's my thing today. A little bit all over the place, but I wanted to tell you about those little books I'm reading. I'm trying to stay consistent with the reading and the document I'm reading and get the information out on YouTube and so show you what I do think on a daily basis for the purposes of the feedback and all that stuff with schizophrenia. So, okay. Thank you so much. Goodbye.